Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for January the 19th. Today we are reading together here in Psalm number 9. The ninth Psalm has a subheading supplied by the translators, Celebration of God's Justice. The subscript of the text that is supplied to us in the manuscript says that this is for the choir director, according to Muthlabin, a Psalm of David. This Muthlabin is maybe a style of music or a particular occasion of which which the psalm is being written or maybe being uh, played in some sort of way. But it is a Psalm of David. I'm going to say that I think I would probably classify this psalm as a psalm of thanksgiving, and specifically, the thanksgiving and the celebration is for God being a just God and Him carrying out justice among all people. So let's read about that here in Psalm number 9. Psalm number 9, verse number 1, I will thank Yahweh with all my heart. I will declare all your wondrous works. I will rejoice and boast about you. I will sing about your name most high. When my enemies retreat, they stumble and perish before you. For you have upheld my just cause. You are seated on your throne as a righteous judge. You have rebuked the nations. You have destroyed the wicked. You have erased their name forever and ever. The enemy has come to eternal ruin. You have uprooted the cities, and the very memory of them has perished. But Yahweh sits enthroned forever. He has established his throne for judgment, and he judges the world with righteousness. He executes judgment on the nations with fairness. Yahweh is a refuge for the persecuted, a refuge in times of trouble. Those who know your name trust in you because you have not abandoned those who seek you, Yahweh. Sing to Yahweh who dwells in Zion. Proclaim his deeds among the nations. For the one who seeks an accounting for bloodshed remembers them. He does not forget the cry of the oppressed. Be gracious to me, Yahweh. Consider my affliction at the hands of those who hate me. Lift me up from the gates of death, so that I may declare all your praises. I will rejoice in your salvation within the gates of daughter Zion. The nations have fallen into the pit they made. Their foot is caught in the net they have concealed. Yahweh has made himself known. He has executed justice, snaring the wicked by the work of their hands. Higgaion, Selah. The wicked will return to Sheol, all the nations that forget God. For the needy will not always be forgotten. The hope of the oppressed will not perish forever. Rise up, Yahweh. Do not let mere humans prevail. Let the nations be judged in your presence. Put terror in them, Yahweh. Let the nations know they are only humans. Selah. That is the reading of Psalm number 9. Again, this is a celebration of God's justice, a psalm of thanksgiving for the just God. And I think that the fact that this is a psalm of thanksgiving is given away pretty quickly, where the very first few words, I will thank Yahweh with all my heart. I will thank Yahweh with all my heart. So that is the foundation of the psalm. There is a declaration of God's wondrous works. There is rejoicing and boasting about him. There is singing about your name. So how can we express our thanksgiving to God? Well, number one, speaking about what he has done. Number two, finding joy in what he has done and boasting in what he has done. And number three, singing about it, singing and praising him through song. These are ways in which we can show our thanksgiving to God. Now, not entirely sure just by the tense of this psalm whether or not this is something where David is looking back at something that has taken place, whether or not this is something that is currently taking place, whether this is something that he has confidence takes place in the future. We're not really sure, but what we do know is that there is great confidence that David has, either for something that God has done, something that he is currently doing, or something that he is confident that God will do in the future. So what will God do? Well, God is going to stand up for David before his enemies. There are those who are against David, and David is full of confidence that they, although they might stand and show themselves as being strong and formidable before David, they truly have nothing whenever it comes to their standing before God. They will stumble and perish before Yahweh. And David has confidence that he will uphold David's just cause. And here's one of the themes throughout this psalm is the fact that God is seated on his throne. Remember, the throne of Yahweh symbolizes his authority and his absolute sovereignty. We see that in verse number 4, you are seated on your throne. We see it again in verse number 7. He has established his throne for judgment. God is the judge. Verse 4, we see the throne. We see righteous judge mentioned. Verses 7 and 8, we see something very similar, where God has established his throne for judgment. And it says in verse number 8 that he judges the world with righteousness. So in doing this judgment, there is judgment of both the wicked and there is judgment of the righteous themselves. Whenever it comes to the wicked, those that he has rebuked, those he has destroyed, those whom he has erased their name forever. This is major punishment. Remember that one of the things that the ancient people really valued was having their name remembered. And part of the way that was done was through descendants being born to individuals. It's part of why the whole Levirate law was put in within Israel. So that their name would not be forgotten among the various families. But those who stand up against Yahweh and against Yahweh's people, they are going to be rebuked. They're going to be destroyed. Their name is going to be erased. The enemy has come to eternal ruin. You have uprooted the cities. The very memory of them has perished. There's another theme within this text. There is perishing of those who are evil. We see that in verse number 6. We also see that in verse number 18. I think there's one more text as well. I circled where it talks about perishing. Verse number 3 as well. So verse number 3, verse number 6, verse number 18. We see that those who are the enemies that David has in mind within this psalm, those are going to perish before Yahweh again as a result of Yahweh's just authority. Now, for those who are righteous, we see in verse number 9 that Yahweh serves as a refuge for them, and they're able to do that because they know Yahweh and they trust in his name, and they have confidence that he will not abandon them. That if you seek Yahweh, Yahweh will allow himself to be found, and there will be a strong relationship between those who seek refuge because they know him and put their trust in him. So again, David, verse number 11, sing to Yahweh who dwells in Zion, proclaim his deeds among nations, very similar to verses 1 and 2, because God judges those who do what is evil, specifically verse number 12, bloodshed, those who shed innocent blood. God remembers them, and God's going to take care of them. And at the same time, you see again the two sides of God's justice. He punishes those who are wicked, but also in verse number 12, he does not forget the cry of the oppressed. So here is David then having basically laid out the theology in verses 3 through 12. So then he turns and applies that theology to himself. So be gracious to me, Yahweh. Consider my affliction at the hands of those who hate me. Lift me up from the gates of death so that I may declare your praises, and I will rejoice in your salvation within the gates of daughter Zion. So again, verses 1 and 2, verse 11, verse 14, all have these key themes of singing God's praises. Singing God's praises. Again, this is a celebration of Yahweh's justice. This is a song of very thankful praise that Yahweh is that David is offering up to Yahweh. Now, again, for those who are the enemies in this particular psalm, verses 15 and 16, here is further reason for why David is so confident in Yahweh, why he's going to praise his name, because those nations have fallen into the pit they have made. Their foot is caught in the net they have concealed. That takes us back to Psalm 5, verse 10, also Psalm 7, verses 15 and 16, where the wicked deeds of men they're kind of like a boomerang. They're going to come back and hit you again. That's how one brother described the sins of these wicked people. They throw it thinking they're going to hit somebody else, but really at the end of the day, it's going to come back upon them. It's going to strike them again. Yahweh has made himself known. He has executed justice, snaring the wicked by the work of their hands. He is known by his judgment of those who are wicked. The wicked will return to Sheol, and all the nations that forget God, for the needy will not always be forgotten. The hope of the oppressed will not perish forever. Rise up, Yahweh. Do not let mere humans prevail. Let the nations be judged in your presence. Put terror in them. Yahweh, let the nations know they are only human. A couple of things here. Again, there's a key theme here of forgetting that those nations who forget God, they will be forgotten by God, and they will be forgotten by everybody. Again, you have erased their name forever and ever. The very memory of them has perished. But those who do remember God, he will remember you. The needy will not always be forgotten. The hope of the oppressed will not perish forever. Those, again, going back to, let's see here, going back here, let's see, verse 13. Verse 13, in David's moment of distress, who does he remember? Well, he remembers Yahweh. Be gracious to me, Yahweh. I'm remembering you. Please remember me. So we see how this works out. If you forget God, he forgets you. If you remember God, he will remember you. He will uplift you. So the enemy is here. David has full confidence in God taking care of the situation, because just look at who the players are. You have these wicked people who are, as is described here, mere humans. They are mere mortals. That's on this side. But then we have Yahweh, almighty, all powerful, sovereign, absolute in his authority. Who do we put confidence in? Who do we believe is going to have victory in the end? Mere mortals or all-powerful God? And of course, the answer there is obvious. It's all-powerful God. That God, the sovereign creator of the universe, is not going to be outdone by mere mortals, by mere humans. And that's the reason why we celebrate his justice. That's the reason we offer such a psalm as here, as we have here, of thanksgiving. We are thankful that Yahweh is the judge, but that he's a particular kind of judge, because there are many people, mere humans, mere mortals, who are judges today. And unfortunately, we don't have to go many days without hearing about some sort of corrupt judge, or some judge who just makes what is very clearly a very biased decision for some foolish reason. But that's not who God is. No. God, as we are reminded in verse 4 and verse 7 and verse 8, so verses 4, 7, and 8, God sits on his throne as judge, but the way he judges is righteous. He makes the proper decision. Those who are wicked, he will properly deal with them. Again, they are rebuked, they are destroyed, their memory is erased, their name is erased, their memory has perished. But those who are righteous themselves, those who celebrate God's judgments, those who search out for him, who remember him, who desire him, those who seek refuge in him, those God himself will remember, and he will bless them in righteousness. And they too will be able to turn around and celebrate and offer psalms of thanksgiving for the righteous judgment of Yahweh, God over all. If you have any questions or comments about this text, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me on this Friday morning. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday and a good day, or good weekend coming up here. And looking forward to being with everybody on Sunday morning for our Bible classes at 10. And then our worship assembly at 11. We'll be continuing our study through the Gospel of Mark this upcoming Sunday. Hope that we'll be able to see you then. Take care and God bless.